Sorry, at least, yeah.
That's where full house SNR. Well, excellent. We've around 2 meetings.
That's called future.
It's obviously getting
We are
interesting
live
and
streaming.
exciting.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Nothing much on TV.
Good evening, everybody.
Evening,
Bill. And thank you. Good evening, and welcome to the this edition of the Planning and Community Committee. Woodley Town Council meetings are now recorded, with recording streamed live and stored on the Town Council's YouTube channel. By virtue of attending the meeting, you consent to having your image and audio recorded for this purpose. If you do not wish your image and audio to be recorded, then please do not stay for the meeting. For those in attendance, we're not expecting a fire drill tonight, so if you hear the fire alarm, please head to the nearest fire exit and congregate at the fire assembly point by the Oakwood Centre at the front of Woodford Park. Thank you. Right, do we have any apologies?
We don't, we have a full house.
Full house, jolly good. Any declarations of interest? Yes, Pete.
Nothing's material, but nevertheless, planning application 240011 in the grass area fronting
Oh, yeah.
45 foot Mansfield Road. As the local borough councillor, I actually worked with them 6 or 7 years ago on this very same issue, although I've had no contact with them for at least 3 years. So I don't think he's qualified. I can give you a background.
Right, that's good. That's good. Right, minutes of the planning meeting held on the 9th of January 24. Is everybody happy that I can sign these as a true record of that meeting? Yeah, or, yeah, yeah. Okay. Item 4 on the agenda, actions and follow-ups, which is on page 15 of your. I did a bit of a state with the page numbers. I don't know why they're.
Numbers normally come off from.
Yeah, well, we can find it. Search through. It's actually a
That's
page
page 236.
6. Okay, just have a look through them. We are not due the first one about the usage of the car parking until July 24. That's when it's going to be completed, the analysis of that. That one's not there.
Can I give you an update?
Yeah.
Again, originally, as a borough councillor, we were told it was going to the executive meeting and then it would be released. Now it's been told it's not going to the executive meeting. They're only in December's numbers and it will be released as a press release prior to any councillor other than the ruling party seeing it. It's ridiculous, but
Yeah.
that's the latest information. And the latest information also suggests that there are no positive trends from that data. I want to see the numbers.
But is that likely to be before the expected date of July that is released?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it will. It's going to be.
The press release that allegedly is going to come in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Right, okay.
But
Thank
there is
you
a
very
lot
much.
of pressure, certainly from our side, to release the data.
Yeah. Good, okay, thank you. Meeting on the 17th of October. There's no update on that. Speed watch.
We will do, Mr. Chair, but when we reach the.
When the suitable part of the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much. The piece on the primary school, Addington Primary School, I spoke to Councillor Shahid Yunus and I spoke to him at the last meeting we had, and he is going to take that up further and find out what's actually happening with following a site visit by the officers to see what they can do to overcome that problem there. Again, the WBC's local plan. And the Southern Working Group update provided in the agenda. That's ready to come back to this meeting where we'll discuss later. Premises license for NISA, that we sent a response with no objections from us. I believe that is coming to a licensing appeals hearing committee when that came to the licensing appeals, there's no problem there. It's really sailed through. That's right. Chemo, that's completed. The chemo gift bags. Reading Cycling Club update on the agenda, so that will come. There.
But in essence, it's completed.
It's completed. Okay, that's fine. And writing to Wokingham Borough Council, there has been a response. Anything further on
Yes, I had a further response on the sent to me. It was this week, 29th, yesterday, following another chase to them. So I asked them 3 questions. First question was, please can you confirm what proposed upgrades are being planned to the footbridge for which track position is being sought? We have a response saying it's been decided to carry out repairs to the structure due to the high cost of replacing the bridge. This involves replacing the approach ramps like for like and refurbishment of the bridge deck sections. Works will need to be undertaken over the railway and as such track possession will be required. Second question was asking, will the proposed upgrades resolve the disabled access issues to the footbridge? And they answered no, this is a like-for-like repair. That question had a sub-question in it suggesting that obviously members here had noted the draft Wokingham Transport Plan and Reading Transport Plans were promoting early station as obviously increased access to that. Their response to that was the current maintenance project was unable to resolve the disabled access issues due to the cost and the available budget. However, the bridge remains part of the LC WIP secondary network, which means that it is part of our future plans and we aim to have step-free access for cyclists and those unable to use steps at some time once funding becomes available. The reference to the interchange improvements is for improvements to the station and it might include a multimodal transport hub and improved routes for all users to access the station. Again, this could include the bridge and any improvements in future will be subject to available funding. The final question was what contingency plan will be put in place should the footbridge fail a future inspection? And the response was a suitable diversion will need to be put in place while works to repair the bridge are carried out. However, based on recent inspections undertaken and information provided, failure of the bridge is not expected. And that response was, I think I just circulated it earlier on today.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, sure.
Just one about minute and 151 about the annual grant application. I wondered whether we could just put a follow-up on reminding ourselves that next time it comes round to invite any other councillors who are on management committees of people who are asking for a grant. We said we'd do that. And then another bit of housekeeping for us newbies. Could we put a link on the agenda to the grant funding guidelines, which you can now find very easily after Matthew's tidy up and enhancement of the website? But I had to a bit of a scrabble to look for those, and it sort of points people towards them, so you know what the criteria you're supposed to be using. That's just housekeeping.
Okay, yes, that's a good idea. Anybody else? Any other points? No? Okay. Current planning applications. I can't give you the number at the moment.
Sorry, for some reason the agenda hasn't
Yeah.
pulled through the page, so I do apologise. Obviously, it's in order. So.
Okay, first one on the agenda is 232968 Magnolia Court, full application for the proposed changes to fenestration to the existing conservatory. Had a look at this one. I don't really see that there's any issue there. So
Upgrading the
yeah.
It was quite interesting when you look at the one document that has the elevations, front and back and what have you, before and after, they're exactly the same. Just a little comment.
That's right. Yeah.
Shame they have to go through this.
They have to spend 10 minutes looking at that.
Spot the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any comments at all? Everybody quite happy with that one? Yep, that's fine. Thank you. Next is 233095 65 Nightingale Road, house owner application for proposed single story front extension and the creation of a porch, single story side extension, single story rear extension following the demolition of the garage. This is we had I think there's one objection from the neighbour, which was I think more or less overbearing. The concerns on that, and it's doubling the size. Sorry.
Is that the neighbour who was worrying about the resale?
Yes, yeah, you can't really, no, you can't take that as a, no.
When I read it, I thought everything she was complaining about was actually non,
Yeah.
so that was one of you.
It's quite a considerable extension if you take the whole thing, isn't it? It's
She did make a valid point. And she did make suggestions in the complaint about having a gable end at each end of the extension, rather than the part being flat roofed and the other part being pitched.
Yeah.
That would probably make it physically more attractive.
I think as far as the looking at the brick wall, that was only in the case of her knocking down her existing conservatory, wasn't
Yes.
it?
Well, yeah,
So,
yeah.
a bit difficult really to sort of visualise what that's going to be in the future, but
You can only comment on
what's there, yeah. So what's the general feeling is that there's no problem? No? Okay, fine, thank you. 240011, which is the grassed area in front, 49 Enstone Road, 45 to 49. And this, although the application comes from one individual, it seems it would benefit 3 properties. You know, you'd say you have some history on this, so.
Yeah, these 3 properties that are on the corner, down at the bottom of Enstone Road where the garages are. And all those years ago, they used to drive over the grass, as they often do, to get to their driveways. And then the council, in their wisdom, without any notification to anyone, including councillors, decided to put bollards in, which caused a reaction. And the net result of that reaction, having spoken to Peter Baberstock in those days, I think you probably remember Peter, do you? Amazing, really good common sense officer. And the result of that was that they would be allowed, so it's sort of 1, 2, 3, the road is here, so they would be allowed to go in and in that way get to both of those.
Yes.
Which worked for a while, and then, surprise, surprise, I noticed about 4 years ago, 3, 4 years ago, there was an accident or something. So one of the bollards that stopped you having going across the grass was sheared off down at grass level, and they've all been going across now.
Very
If you go there and you'll see it is all full of mud.
See on Google Earth, the tracks.
Yeah, that's what it used to be like.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can almost see
Yeah.
there, but it's even worse than that. So this application, you can see the bollard, you see.
Yes.
Yeah, you see the missing one there where the track is. This, to me, is a practical solution by just slicing off a triangular bit. Part of that earlier deal was the 2 end ones on the corner had to pave over their front so that they actually had somewhere to park, which they duly did. So that's really the background.
But if they remove the bollards and make it possible to park there, who's responsible for hard surfacing it, or are they just leaving it as grass?
So what they're doing is taking a slice out,
Yeah.
not
No,
so,
not the whole
so,
thing.
so there will still be bollards around it, but there'll be a triangular slice, wider at this end, going smaller to the corner. And that will be, in essence, I guess, still a footpath striped highways, and it will therefore be WBC maintenance, as will the remainder of the grass.
Yeah.
Scruffy, isn't
Okay, so do we see any problems with that? Anybody, any objections?
it? I read that it had all been around once before and that it had been approved and then it expired in 22.
So that was the thing I was talking about.
Yeah, so it'd be a bit perverse for us to change our mind now, wouldn't it?
Okay, everybody happy with that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, 240027, 1 Comet Way, household application, post construction of a single story rear extension, and there is a details here, I think, of that particular one. Was this generally handed round, the details on this?
They're just forwarded to yourself.
Right, okay, there's two residents have complained, and they did, I think, on the planning application that we were all able to see. I think, first off, one is complaining, this is part retrospective, so the building has already started, and one of the residents is complaining about the hours of work that's being carried out, and they're breaking concrete at 7:45 AM and they're working at weekends, 7:30. But that comes down to an enforcement officer, really, but as long as they're made aware that that's happening, and then they can actually take that up. I think this one is additional building with its own front door and no side extension plans. The footings were dug up. This is again about the hours of working, and it is the 7 days working starting at 7:30. So that's really again something that needs to be taken up with a enforcement officer rather than as a planning issue at this stage.
But Chair, if we're minded to support this, then we could easily put a caveat to say, please, can you make sure that the times of working are held to or something.
Yeah.
It says they haven't put in for planning permission, they haven't got any of the rules,
No.
so
No.
it's almost like you have to
You
do
don't
that.
have to adhere to it if you haven't got them. Yeah, okay, I think that's a good point there, Keith, that we do make that not a condition, but a recommendation really, that we take that up. Is that okay? But are we happy with the application itself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. 240091, 24 up in Drive. Oh, sorry, missed that one. 240072 Elm Drive, household application for the proposed loft conversion to create habitable accommodation plus insertion of 2 number roof lights to the front elevations and 2 number roof lights to the rear elevations. Where are we? 7.
Couldn't find number 33 on this street. No, they were numbered opposite.
Yeah.
This is the end of the block of 4, I think.
Yeah.
I couldn't find number 33.
The end has some terrace.
Elm Drive is all,
Yeah.
it's interesting when you go around that.
Should be a postie.
Did influence is good fun.
What's a posting?
It's that property there.
You see my phrases.
Right in the middle.
The only main problem I had about it was that it's going to be 5 bedrooms and there's only 2 parking spots.
5 bedrooms. I don't know what the policy is on 5 bedrooms. 2, is that?
It's only guidance.
Yeah.
There are plenty of places that have only 2.
Yeah, I think there are 5 properties in here, but Google Earth is only showing there as being 4. So Wokingham plans show it split into 5, 25 to 33.
From an external view, you wouldn't be able to see anything. It's roof lights. It's the only classic ability.
So any objections on that one? Any comments at all?
No.
No. Okay. And we come on to 240095 38 Roxham Road, household application, proposed single story. Oh, it's cold out here. I don't want to do this. What have I missed out? Uppingham.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, sorry, yeah, 240091. Oh, yes, right, got it. It's me on here, my own list that I'm working from. 240. Household application for proposed single story rear extension. It also includes roof lights. 240091. I've got no objection. I couldn't see anything at all. Is that right? Put me right if I jump ahead too far. 240095. I'm allowed to do that one now. Okay.
I'll go. Did 115.
This is a household application to propose single story rear extension plus insertion of 1 number dormer to the east elevation and 1 number dormer to the west elevation of the existing roof with changes to fenestration. So, neighbours concerned over the omission of a chimney detail, and actually when you look at it, it's quite a sizable chimney and it's been left off the plans. So there's no drawings. I think that was the concern, wasn't it? I think it was that the only concern I read.
No,
or
they
was that-
have things like where the scaffolding goes.
Oh, yes, yeah, the
stuff like
working
that.
again, but that, does that come under planning? Where
No,
oh, is that-
it's a civil matter.
Yeah,
And if, as looking at the Google Maps, if scaffolding needs to be put onto their property, which I think it almost certainly will have to, then they have to get the permission of those, the people who are complaining.
Yeah.
Because they can't do it otherwise. But that's a civil matter.
right.
Would that be under the party wall agreement?
I don't think, no, I think party wall agreement is exactly that. It's the same wall.
Shared
The
one.
application form always asks, have you served part A or part B? So they have a certificate A or B.
Right.
Where it's likely to go over the boundaries, so
Yeah,
that should be picked up from the officer.
right,
This-
yes,
I think the objection as well did refer to the fact that the dormers would be overlooking.
yeah,
And actually, over the back too, the dormer is going to be very close to the house in, is it Selcourt Close?
yes.
And so I imagine you could stand there and look straight into their garden really, because it's a bungalow next door and there's a little shed at the bottom.
But
So-
interesting enough, I think, this is what, 38, and I think 36.
They've got some down
They've
the
got
road.
dormers,
Yeah, yeah.
so the next door neighbour's got them.
Yeah. I suppose it just depends how it's aligned, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I know they'll be able to get the scaffolding on their property. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a different issue. We don't have to worry about that, do we? That's not
No,
our problem. It's whether it's.
I mean, he's
okay.
concerned also about the demolition of this chimney, this non-existing chimney, as far as the drawings are concerned, I mean, which is quite substantial.
But again,
That's
that's
a
part.
Huh?
There,
Look at the right
there's
one,
something in there.
Is it in between those?
I thought
Yes.
it was behind that dirty great tree.
Yeah, it is that.
It is,
Whoa,
isn't
whoa,
Yeah, you
sorry,
can't-
too far.
I can't.
Yeah, you
Go
can't
back.
see past the tree.
Go back.
So the
Stay
door,
back, that is 30, and if you
Yeah.
go plus, lots of pluses, you eventually will see it says 38 on the left, just above the, wooden fence there.
so the dormer would actually look onto the roof line and the next door one, won't it? It's not gonna.
The next door is, if I remember right, is a bungalow, isn't it?
Yeah.
Quite a large bungalow, so it's gonna be looking down on.
Their
Roof,
garden,
yeah,
it's their garden, it's their
Onto the
garden.
roof.
Well, it's the garden that will be, I think, that we have to see into, because the dormer's going to run the whole.
But if you
length
look out
of
your
the-
back bedroom window, June, you'll see into your neighbour's garden, won't you?
Yeah, it's very interesting, it is too. Yes, but you can understand why people,
Yeah.
you know, would say it's, affect your enjoyment of your garden. I suppose it depends what they're doing in it.
But no one's got the right to enjoyment, I'm
Yeah.
afraid.
Except that is one of the things that they've turned down the Starbucks on, isn't it? About enjoyment of the garden. Yeah. Yeah.
That's quite a roundabout.
So where do we go with this one? Do you think that there is a reason to reject
I have
or?
no-
I think it's fine.
No, okay. Right. Right, 240115, 2 Austin Road, household renovation proposed part single, part two-storey side extension to include changes to fenestration. I mean, this is a corner plot and there's certainly a lot of land there, available land. I don't see that it would cause any problems for any neighbouring. There's been no objections from neighbours. So anybody have any comments on that one? No. And finally, nothing came up, no. 240128 Collinsmore Road, we haven't got any details on that, no drawings, nothing's been.
In other obviously you can't get 241128, no data.
No.
So I did a search. No, it's where they took down 3 or 4 big houses and they put that big estate.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is,
It's that estate, you know where
yeah,
it is?
it was the old scrapyard.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's that estate,
yes.
because if you do a search, you get the number.
It's one of the new
99,
ones,
comes-
isn't it? It's the,
It comes up
So it's the.
with that.
is it one of
They've
those,
replaced
it's one of
one.
those ones on the corner plot, is it?
No, it's much bigger than that. It's that whole big block like that goes around.
Yeah, that was the whole area
Because they
of
put
the,
2 buildings in there, didn't they?
an additional 2, that was the
Yeah,
owner
and
of the
that came
property,
to
owner
us.
of the whole land put 2 in.
But no, I don't know whether this is 90, we don't know because there's no information.
It was a semi, I don't know where I picked that up from.
We can't really
Yeah, so
discuss
it's-
this,
yeah,
didn't come to any conclusions unless we get the drawings and the details, so.
I chased Wokingham on that today and they didn't come back in time. There have been occasions in the past, I explained earlier, that where the officers validate an application, so they get an application, they check it's got all the information they need. When they validate it, it then becomes visible on here. And then sometimes it's then extra checks and someone goes, actually, it's wrong or something's wrong, and it gets taken back off. We've had that with applications we've been notified of before that then disappear. There is a partner portal where local councils, the town councils and parish can see applications. So we can see the application is there and it's still in their system, but that doesn't give us any data on it. And so it's clearly not live. So I've chased them. And what I recommend is that when they come back and it's corrected, I'll send the plans around. And if we can make a decision by email, it will probably speed things up rather than waiting to the next meeting if everyone's happy with that. Yep.
Because obviously, since it's not on the system, there's no date.
No, and if it has genuinely been unvalidated, then the consultation period won't start until it's been validated again. But Councillor Taylor found one today with Broxton Road where it disappeared, and when I contacted them, they actually just said it was an error and they put it back on. So until they come back, I don't know.
Well, I looked at them this afternoon about 4 o'clock. It isn't in that.
And it's definitely that property there. It's definitely
What was?
the one on the right of those two.
Right. Move on. Right, so that's the current planning application dealt with. Planning decisions. Okay. Withdraw no determination, I think. Refused contrary to town council, none at all. Refused endorsing the town council's recommendation was the point. That's the Starbucks. So that was refused and agreed with our findings.
Interestingly, actually, they said one of the reasons they refused it because it was the loss of 2 family-sized homes. I thought it was quite interesting that they.
Yeah.
The owners of those homes are saying.
Yes.
Well, you don't want to live, they're nice houses, but they're right in the middle of that.
Yeah.
Congestion.
Yeah. Okay, approved endorsing the town council's recommendations. There's a number there. I don't think there's anything that we need to look at. The fact that they've taken the same view as us. And approved endorsing the town council's recommendation. That's it, finally, Arundel and Denmark, yeah. Okay, so fairly consistent with our findings. Moving on. Planning appeals. This is the land at Heavy Road East. This is the old Adwest building. And it's although we recommended refusal and the town council, the borough, although the officers recommended approval, the committee recommended refusal. It went to appeal and the appeal was allowed. So the building will be demolished. So which is
Signed petitions going around.
Yeah, it was quite interesting reading the detail of his report though, and it appears that if we could have proved that like Douglas Bader used to drink in there or whatever, but they were saying it was all too tenuous, So there's
The big, I was briefly involved on the poetry and Shirley was trying. And the actual sort of nail in the coffin is they applied to English Heritage.
Oh yeah, they do.
And English Heritage came back and said it's not of sufficient quality. And unfortunately, if I'm the developer, it's like, you're all saying it's it's an important historic building. English Heritage is saying no. You almost think, hindsight's great, that you shouldn't have gone and done that and fought it on everything else. But we are where we are.
I suppose from our perspective, it's all we've got left. I suppose from a national point of view, it's probably insignificant, but that's all we've got left of the airfield, wasn't it? So
Yeah, I mean, the part that if it could have been saved was the hotel and nightclub, you know, but that.
That's a long time ago.
Somehow got burnt to the ground. Twice, wasn't it?
Twice, yeah.
I wasn't living here, by the way.
Okay, so the tree preservation orders, just a note. Two, well, Woodland in Dundela Close, Woodley, those two. Okay, Woking Borough Council local water transport plan, that's on appendix 9. You have details of that. If you wish to discuss, have a look. See what you feel. I think it's a pre-list, isn't it?
Not what, policies and strategies, that's true.
Okay, I mean, in an ideal world, it would be a wonderful thing to go for. Yes, Joe.
Yeah, I guess the thing is with all this sort of stuff, isn't it? It's a direction of travel and laying down, you know, what your principles are. And you know, from that perspective, I mean, it's not going to be controversial, I don't think, you know, it'll be when it comes to the detail. But I've got a few things that I don't know whether you guys would be happy to sort of chip in about. But one of the things I know, it's probably a bit cheeky really, but I don't really notice they divided Woking up into 4 areas and they've all got slightly different characteristics. And there is some stuff in there about how Wokingham and Winnersh have the highest take-up of active travel. And given that we in Woodley are also counted as urban, I think we ought to congratulate Wokingham and Winnersh for that, and note also that there's been quite a lot of investment there, and we'd quite like to be next on that level of investment. And in particular, given that it also says in the document, we've got this target of reaching 50% of active travel by 2030, and the population in Woodley, well, it's Woodley, Early and Shinfield, is very concentrated. That would be a sort of low-hanging fruit if we could increase the active travelling area. So could we put our hands up, please, to be considered as a priority for the next stage?
Or even a pilot.
Well, you know, I think there's obviously stuff that could be done, but I just, you know, wanted to put our hand up for it. And our usual, we're persecuted in Woodley because they spend all the money in Wokingham way. But I think there's, you know, there's a kind of case for that, since they've got a result in Wokingham and Winnersh with the investment there. We'd like to have a bit of investment too and see if we could get our figures up.
Yeah.
So I've got a whole list of this. The second thing.
Presumably you can pass those on to.
Yeah. The second thing that I was I would like to ask, and we've done this before in other contexts, is I'd like to see some more explicit reference and consideration of disabled residents. Because there's sort of the only reference I can find in there is a bit on high quality travel corridors, which is page 21, if anybody wants to look at it, which talks about improving access to public transport, the quality of bus stops, disabled parking provisions and level access at stations, and supporting community dial and ride services, which is, you know, all good in itself. But what I would like to see is, it talks in there a lot about pedestrians and cyclists and wheelers, and I would just like an explicit thing to say, well, where do people in wheelchairs fall? Do they count as pedestrians, or should they be mentioned specifically? And similarly about mobility scooters. And I thought perhaps I'm being a bit unfair here, so I did do a search on the document to see how many times it mentioned disabled, and it was the one on page 21. And then for a laugh, I put horses in. And I think they got mentioned 4 or 5 times. And I thought, hang on a minute, that doesn't sound right, does it? So if we could just flag that, not put that,
if you're disabled, right?
but not put that bit in, because I think we're being snarky. But I thought, well, you know, it's wrong, isn't it? We need to just automatically make sure that disabled people are mentioned, because if you're not mentioned, then when you come to tick off all these projects,
because you've just said what I was going to say, so we're not even very much mentioning them at all.
So, and interesting, yeah, they were also on that bit. There's another bit around the consultation, that they had with residents, and then they talked about other different groups they'd spoken to. And again, the British Horse Foundation or whoever they are were asked, but there are no disabled groups mentioned, which is not to say they won't consult. So they're not in the document. And I think, if there was consultation with disabled, I'd like to see that in that document because it's kind of a marker.
I think one of the problems is that there are very few disabled groups in, Woodley.
Yeah.
Don't exist.
But it does cover the whole of Woking in this document. So you think there has to be somebody they could have,
It used to be a really strong, you probably remember this, so WAAG, the Woking Area Access Group. I don't know whether that's still happening, but that was really, I'm going back 10, 15 years, and they were really active, covering all sorts of disabilities.
Yeah.
Because I got involved with that.
Apparently it still exists, but not in the same format as it used to.
The guy who ran it, I think, died often,
Yeah.
and you need to know with it.
Okay.
But can I reinforce what June's saying, because I'm just looking at number 16, on page 16, freight. Use the freight with initial focus on Woking Town Centre. And I've counted already 3 pictures of Woking on Town Hill and Town Centre. Not what I'm trying to find a Woodley.
Not one.
Actually require something.
that's what we're here for, isn't it? Just to raise a flag. So.
I can't call it.
Well, our residents want to really, because at the end of the day, all this stuff that's being spent, they're paying for as well. So it's just, we like to. Yeah, it's all of us, exactly.
Yeah, but what, I think if you go out and you talk to some of the disabled in Woodley, what they want is parking centralised, not put out all over the place, but centralised, and someone there or contactable that can actually give them a hand with getting things in and out of the car and getting themselves on the way, things that help them with the wheelchair out of the boots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right. So, there is a thought as well that some of them would like some form of access to a shop mobility scheme. Because we've been left out all along on that sort of thing and no funding for it, etc. But there are lots of people who would like to use a scooter when they come into the town centre.
Which is why it's important we get it, some reference to this in the plan, because.
Or to go, to go over to the park or just to be able to walk around town centre, go for a coffee with the mates and stuff like that. And it's, it affects the elderly as well. And if you look down there on a Monday and Tuesday in particular, you cannot get into the parking spaces in the middle of the town centre because of all the buses like down the right and the buses that come from the old people's house. Yeah, they all seem to, and you cannot get into the centre bit though with the car because all the buses take up the bays and they're too long for them.
They used to actually park outside and are meant to park outside, right?
Yeah, we know they are.
But if we can, well, we can send a notice to both Freddie Bus or Ankin Butler, because they're the two.
They're not the big offenders. The big offenders are the old people's homes that have their own minibuses.
Could you provide information to Matthew and we could then write and just remind him?
Yes,
There's a dedicated space outside the library for
Yeah, I know.
exactly that purpose.
yeah, the private homes might not know that. though. Arrangements in place, yeah. That's a good point.
Sorry, we're interrupting you.
My next one is trains. Again, in the document, it talks about train use is lower in Woodley Early Sonning than it is in Wynisham Wokingham and North Wokingham, which is round Twyford. And I wondered if that could be, because we haven't got a train station But I think, again, we need to kind of flag the fact that actually people in Woodley, and this is anecdotal, but you know, from sort of 30 odd years living here, I mean, we use all the stations, we use Reading and Twyford, you know, to get on the cross country, but also to get into Paddington, and now the Elizabeth line. And also in that document, they're talking about somebody is bunging in has got a plan or hope to build a spur down to Heathrow. So that would all be through there. And then we use Early and Winner's Triangle for Waterloo. And I also go sometimes straight to Wokingham to get on the North Downs, because the North Downs line does not stop between Wokingham and Reading. So, you know, that's your choice. So the thing that I think I'd like us to flag is that there needs to be some prioritisation given to how we can get Woodley people to stations easily and safely and not by car, because that's the kind of big issue with it. And I know Twyford Station is pretty popular with people in Woodley, and it's just, I was going to say something rude, it's really difficult to park
You
there.
can't get there and you don't go.
No, exactly. So, you know, it's if you had a bus that ran you down to Twyford Station, I bet that would be very popular. But I think there's a number of things we just need to flag that is our issue in Woodley, is getting ourselves to a station in order to, you know, execute our journey. And that is a great big thing in all this, the jargon with this, isn't it, is multimodal journeys and modal shifts, you know. So it's, instead of somebody driving all the way to work, they drive to a station perhaps and then go on, or preferably they get on a bus or they cycle, you know. It's all that's the whole driver behind this document. So I think that's, if we frame it from that point of view, is that we're very keen to do a bit of modal shifting, but in order to do that, we need you know, to prioritise thinking about how you get Woodley people to the stations that they want to use. And then also it's kind of related to that, and it kind of harks back to you know, what we've talked about before and our recurring thing about whether our bridge is going to fall down, but it's also those issues around like Early Station. People don't people who walk to that station, they'll come across the bridge. So the bridge is very important to us, you know, to foster that. The other thing on Early as well, there is a petition sculling around. I think it's got about 200 online signatures now about building or putting a zebra crossing in across the Wokingham Road, and you know, to make that safer. So that's kind of sort of things that, you know, we'll want to be looking at. But it's, again, it's all about making it easier for people to get to the station and be a bit greener.
I pick up the business of this whole concept of making it easier. Part of that is making people aware. And working in Borough, I think, from a cycling perspective, I've been putting out, we're spending a lot of money, but I've been putting out a lot of things on Facebook from travel, what it is, yeah,
My journey.
about, you know, this is how you can get from here to here, and it's all animated and what have you. One day it will be this journey, and another day, which is actually, I think it's not being a cyclist, but I think it's a great way of introducing and addressing. How do I get from there to there? And I want to cycle, but I don't know. It's telling you, do something similar. You know, you just trotted out a whole load of things. But if I want to go to here, I go there. If I want to go here, I go to there, etc. If I don't want to stop between Woking and Reading, I go, you know, that sort of thing, utilising the same sort of mechanism, vehicle that they're using to do the cycle. Talk about how, you know, if you want to go from A to B, now that doesn't address the issue of how do you get from your home to the train station, but at least it's producing something that says that's how to do it.
And the point you're making about the My Journey site, which is good, I mean, it's not perfect, because when we were chatting, weren't we, when we were talking about the cycling committee, that if you tap in, how do I get from Early Station to Bulworth School, they send you up the Wokingham Road. And I wouldn't want a kid of mine cycling up the Wokingham Road, you know. I'd say lug your bike over the you know, the bridge and go up the quiet roads, but that's not to say it's not a good idea. And this is one of the reasons why we're so keen to have our cycling committee, just to make a list of all these sort of things that we can do. And some of them we can do ourselves, but a lot of them, it'll be going back and working with the My Journey people. And again, sweating an asset that we're paying for, and we're not actually getting, I think, the full value of it for people in Woodley. So, as I say, I'm not, desperate to go and spend vast amounts of people's money, but it's just, let's at least leverage what's there already and make sure that Woodley people are getting a fair share of it. So yeah, that was the point of change. But I'll drop you a note about all this rambling, Matthew.
I've captured most of it, so I think it's all right, but I know will be really helpful.
So if you could make it more coherent.
Okay.
And as I said, the only last thing I was looking at was again on the cycling, and again on page 19 they talk about an audit of the road and cycling network, and this is just really something for us internally that we want to refer to our task and finish group. This is another resource that they can have a look at with possible things that we can do to improve stuff. And I don't know whether what we can do about this, but there was a reference to collisions on the roads, and it mentioned that Wokingham and Woodley Town Centre were high places for collisions, which kind of you expect really, as opposed to in the depths of Finchampstead, I suppose. But I wondered whether we could get any details of these collisions, just to see what sort of things they are, and if they're in a recurring place or whatever. Is that something that they'd give us if we asked?
Definitely approach them and ask for that data. Yeah.
And again, we could lob that in with into our cycling group, and they can have a look at it and see if there's anything there that is useful.
Carol.
Yes, some of it I think might duplicate what has just been said, but on page 5, I think it's the third paragraph. It's talking about improving the response rate for those below 65. Well, we all know that rapidly wanes, but my question was how. And I think the danger is a report like this. They're all motherhood statements almost, what we want to see. But it would be good if we could, rather than making one of the comments being, how would you do this? Just getting some detail from Woking Borough. So that was a question I'd like us to ask. On page 16, I thought it would be fairly general, but they've actually mentioned the step 3 railway crossing at the Townhouse Carnival Hub. But there's no mention of the need for disabled access to the London bound platform at Early Station. And it's just another example of Woking being used as an example. Does it mean they've forgotten about this lack of disabled access? But I think if it's in the report, it's going to remind people, and people are going to feel it's being looked at. So I'd like to see that included. On page 19, which was the last thing that I mentioned, we're talking about how increasing the network required to rural roads and residential streets. How? What does that mean? You can't, the network, but for whom? Is that for walking, cycling, cars? I mean, how do you network residential streets and rural roads? So it's just an explanation of some of these planning speak, if you like, as to see what's meant by that. And then just really not picking out what they've said, but what they haven't said is that we need better signage for walking and cycling, linking safer routes. And I think that's the bridge that is still closed from the open space at Loveland Park over to Hurst. That should be flagged up somewhere because things might change. And that really is an important route for both walkers and cyclists to get across to a different part of the area. And it's a long way round if you don't get across the bridge. I always often suggest a mass trespass for that one. These are ball cutters.
Yeah, Robert.
Thanks, Bill. Something that Carol's just said there reminded me, speed limits. So if you want to encourage people to get out and about on their bikes and on foot, Sandford Lane, Castle Hill, Hurst, there's national speed limits. And I spoke to the council, had conversations with Wayne at Hurst and a police person whose name I forget. And they apparently the speed limit is set by the police, not by the council.
That's not true.
And because the police, because there aren't accidents, they won't change it. So if it's set by the council, why is that bit? So you drive up through outside the pub in Hurst and the church. That's a 60 limit through that little wiggly bit.
Oh.
Sanford Lane's a 60 limit. I walk down Sanford Lane a lot and crawl back normally. But those simple things could be done. So, and I suggested about painting on the road as well, images of a pedestrian, images of a bicycle. So it reminds people, because there are arrogant, remember my language, there are arrogant people out there who go to 60, I'll do 60 down here. And it's dangerous, it really is. And I think if we could actually, if Keith's saying it's not a police matter, it is a council.
Well, it is, it isn't.
If we could,
I'll explain.
yeah, if we could, you know, shake that stick a bit and get some of these things, that's an easy thing to do. To make that well, it could be a 20, you know.
So to answer your question,
Please.
it is the borough.
Yes.
It's the borough who create the traffic regulation order from the consultation.
There isn't one on Sanford
And
Lane.
it's it, right? And what they will generally do, officers, is they'll liaise with the police very closely. Because if the police don't support it, what's the point of changing the, because no one is ever going, no policeman is going to go down there and say, you know, it becomes effectively a waste of time. And then all the residents get upset because they say, look, this is a 40 mile an hour, say it went from 60 to 40. And people are still speeding, and people do not realise that actually it's down to the police to do the enforcement. And they, no offence to the police, but they tend to be squeaky clean in this. And so officers, I did it when I was doing this, except as well, if the police weren't committed to supporting and doing enforcement, then it put the bar so much higher to change the speed limit, unfortunately.
But there isn't a TRO on Sanford Lane.
By default.
So the police can't-
It would be the national.
Yeah, but the police can't enforce the weight limit. They can't
That's a
enforce-
different thing.
You know,
That's a
there's
different thing.
and
The speed limit, they can enforce to 60.
yeah,
But no one's going to be doing
I mean, in my youth, I think I did go down there at 60 miles an hour, but you can't. It is
that. Is that when
impossible.
you were walking?
That's with my Austin and leg road. But you can't do. I think it'd be really hard to catch somebody doing 60 down there.
Yeah.
But it is people's perceived. Oh, it's 60. I can go 60. And I think if we, and I'm not saying to Sanford Lane and Castle Hill Hurst, but if you look at all the different roads, Oxford's done it. Go over the bridge into Sonning. I think you can drive all the back roads up to wherever. It's all 30 mile an hour limits on all those back roads now, up through Dunstan.
Yeah.
You know, Oxford's done it. Yeah. But, you know, we should really be on that. And for the sake of a few £1,000 on some signs and a bit of paint, it could be done easily, I believe.
The same as 20 mile an hour zones. Police will not come out and police
No.
20 mile an hour zones.
No.
20 mile an hour zones are meant to be self-enforcing. I.e. there's a physical constraint to stop you.
But again, sort of, you know, without harping back, I think if we sort of just pick odds and ends of things to ask to have, you know, the speed limit change or what have you, I think it's less powerful than if we can get our, you know, cycling task and finish group to actually identify a larger area and what we want to see where, so it all looks as though it hangs together, because I think that's one of the issues, certainly with some of the TROs that have just been raised, that, you know, people have asked for yellow lines here and then it's moved a problem somewhere else, and I think if we can try and be a bit more take a couple of steps backwards, and rather, because a lot of the TROs have been instigated by people who are actually on the ground and are being inconvenienced, But if we, as a council, can look, just try and take a sort of a bigger, look at a bigger area, and I think you might get, you know, a bit more traction with it than just doing odds and ends. Just a thought. Again, we can flag that with task and finish group.
I think that's something along the same vein that Carol had about clarification. Again, on your page 19, I haven't spotted. We need, it says 20 mile an hour speed limits and everything. Where supported? Supported by who? The janitor, the officer, a councillor, a resident? It needs to be a little bit more specific. That is so vague that they could sort of put something in or not put something in and say, well, Joe Bloggs didn't support it. So, and also consider e-scooter hire schemes to improve door-to-door traffic. Well, legally, they can't do that. The hire schemes are pilot schemes that have been running for several years now, and everybody's waiting for the government's review of that. So that, you know, that is setting expectations which you can't actually fulfill, or at least not probably for the period of this latest LTP, which will be probably 5 years. So it just needs e-scooter hire schemes when legally available, or something like that. We've got enough trouble with people on e-scooters who think it's perfectly legitimate. So
Yeah,
drive people,
yeah.
drive people. That was it, sorry.
Well, the problem, Chair, but the problem these days as well, I go to London daily, people just dump bikes, dump the e-scooters in the middle of the pavement, so it's becoming an environmental thing as well. So one is, it's illegal, it's a pilot scheme, but yet people don't care. As soon as their tariff runs out, they just toss the bike or the e-scooter to the side, and you have to walk around it. It's unbelievable. So I personally would never get a scheme.
Yeah, okay. Right, any other comments? You've got a full list there.
I have a full list. We've got another couple of weeks at least to respond, so I'll await information from council headers just to make sure I've got that captured correctly, and I'll pull it together and send it across.
Thank you. Okay, we come on to item 10, Ashbury Park, Ashbury biodiversity proposals, and it's just on appendix 10. We have the opportunity, deadline for comments on this is the 18th of February. If you've had an opportunity to have a look at any comments that you have about the scheme.
Just to say, we've had a specific request from the Trees and Landscape Service Manager that, if possible, we should respond using the online engage form. It really helps them to capture those comments.
Yeah.
So that is the survey that is on here. So if we could,
Yeah.
if you're happy to answer those questions, then that's their preferred response. I know sometimes we capture other comments, but that would be helpful for them.
You will need an account on the engage platform in order to understand.
So sorry, are they saying they want us to do it individually?
No, I can put a response in on behalf of the
Yeah.
committee. I have an account on there which is linked, and it does say who are you responding to. On most of the engagers, are you responding on behalf of, you know, so I will
And
say
you
town
can cover
council.
all the end bit, which is, you know,
Yeah.
whether we identify as male or female, all that sort of stuff. I was thinking, oh, God.
The thing is, I mean, the questions are all in here, so
Yeah.
you would need us to respond to you, and you would collate it and
As a committee, if there's consensus to the answers here tonight, then that would give me an ability to respond. If you didn't want to do that, then I could provide a separate response. It's just that they've emailed specifically and said, please, if you can, it would be really helpful.
Can I apologise, Chairman, by the way? I should have declared an interest. Myself and my colleague Alex Person, well, because this is in coronation, have been talking for a long time with the creators, the originators of this. Whatever it is, he said. I've been in there, fully supportive of this great idea.
Okay. So how do we, sorry, yeah, Robert.
Could we ask that they actually look at pedestrian access to the park? Because if you go in the main, where the height barrier is for cars in and out,
Angels Road.
yeah, there used to be, on the junction there with Denmark, there used to be a gate into the play area, which they closed off. sensibly, because otherwise you're coming straight from the play onto the road. But if you're just trying to get into the park as a pedestrian, the only way in is through that road area. There's no other way in from that side at all.
There is a style, the very close.
Down
to
that
the-
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you've got to go down
But
to
if-
the lane.
But if you're a bit infirm or old like me,
Yeah,
getting over the style is not necessarily easy.
or pretty.
Oh, you've seen it.
I've written down some answers. I don't know whether to make that as a proposal, see if everybody agrees with those answers as a starter. That would be good. Number one, strongly agree. Any opposition?
That one, yes.
Yeah. Number two, strongly agree. Anybody again? Number three, I voted for some open space and new tree planting. Ever the compromising view.
I was thinking about leaving it open. It just seems that we're sort of encroaching on open spaces, and of course, people need more room now to hold each other up by knife point from this week. But there we go. Yes.
Sorry,
So I was fairly ambivalent about that, but I thought having both would be easiest. So some open space and new tree planting, but it depends what the sum is, doesn't it?
I would go for just leave it as an open space.
Okay.
That would be my view.
That was what I.
Everybody seems happy with that. Number four, I thought yes, it was a suggestion.
Biodiversity improvements,
Oh, yes,
enhance the habitat, provide additional
Yes.
environmental benefits.
so I
Yeah.
don't think that's probably
Yeah.
fairly, widely accepted. On the additional one, my suggestion was that we should have signage for cycling and walking routes to Ashenbury Park, having improved it somewhat. If you live anywhere away from Ashenbury Park, A, you wouldn't know it was there, B, you wouldn't know how to get there safely.
Right, yeah, everybody, yes.
The only other thing I don't know yet, we could ask for is whether we could have an explanatory board up somewhere explaining what had been
You
done.
have that somewhere. Yes, no, definitely. Interpretation.
Yeah, see if if you'd actually try and. I must say, when I read the heading, it's a biodiversity proposal, I thought, oh, we're gonna have herds of wildebeest going across the park. But sadly not.
As long as there's no more escaping of methane on that.
You can have a barbecue in your house now, can you?
I don't think so.
Okay, so you're okay with that one? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Parliamentary walk boundaries, again on appendix 11A, and there's not really much we can do towards this other than understand it. There is a breakdown of what the boundary changes will mean. Is there any comments anybody has on seeing the boundary changes? I say not much we can do now at this stage, but
That's it. I
yeah.
think it's just the interim bit where the different
Yes, if there was a.
borders, the
Yeah,
different
yeah.
borders are, going to apply at different times.
Okay. Great. And transportation and highways, cycling and walking paths and finished road. Anything further on that, yeah?
Just to add to what's in the agenda, obviously, in the agenda, it asked members just to note that following the last meeting, Councillor Baker did contact several people about this, and we've had Steve Bell from Loddon Valley Ramblers has agreed to take part, Karen Robertson from Cycling UK Reading, and the Reading Cycle Campaign. She's also part of that, I've said it. Since the agenda was issued, we also have Alex Cran has put himself forward, who again is another member of Reading Cycling Campaign, to be on that working group. And I have today sent out information for the first meeting, which is going to be held next Thursday evening, next week, Thursday evening on the 8th of February. So that will be the first meeting of that group.
Can I say, just before Karen, the response I got from all three was extremely positive. So hopefully, because it's just Carol and June, I think.
It's Councillor Edwards on it. It's not Councillor, that was my fault. I sent that out in an email.
Right, there's two town councils, please, I'm sure you will, but treat them so that we keep them because their time and curiosities are valuable as ours. They're going to make a major contribution.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for your efforts here. Okay, yes, sorry, yeah, Carol.
Yes, touch confused because I thought the agreement was that the two Conservative places were given up because they couldn't find anybody, and those were going to be given to two cycling reps. And now I think we've got 4 people. Is that right?
The terms of reference are updated to say that there will be 2 cycling reps from either a combination of or one or other of the Reading Cycling Campaign or the Reading Cycling Network, I think was the organisation. So we have had 2 from Reading Cycling Campaign in, who are Karen Robson and Alex Cran. So that meets the requirement of the terms of reference. At the same time, we've had Steve Bell from Lodding Valley Ramblers say he was interested in getting involved, and I think from our point of view as the working group, it would make sense to get that input on there. So I've invited him along to the meeting.
And to clarify, Carol, it was you who suggested Loddon Valley Ramblers.
Yes, I'm not arguing that. I was just.
That's why
I
I
keep
contacted
getting these
as well.
emails from Matt, and I'm thinking, well, who is on this committee?
Yeah, I've tried to clarify in the agenda that there are 2 councillors, 2 other representatives, and then a non-voting representative is Alex Grant, just to avoid when we get to the first meeting any confusion on that. As we say, working groups generally, because they're not making formal resolutions, we don't actually tend to have many formal votes on that. They tend to come to consensus, and the recommendation then comes to the parent committee. So unless we get to the point where there's real contention and we want to take a vote, hopefully we'll just be able to base it on the information that's provided at the meeting.
As I understand it, Mr. Chairman, the only people that can vote are the councillors. No, so it's the
standing order say voting is done by members of the
Members of-
committee, and I think the members are as stated in the terms of reference.
So I think it is a shame that how we tackle this, but it means that Loddon Valley Ramblers have got, we've got 2 lots of cyclists and 1 rambler, and according, and he's a non-voting member.
If someone would like to make a recommendation to add Loddon Valley Ramblers as an
I'd like to recommend that we add him to the proposal. Yeah, because the more people that put in with knowledge and experience and passion, then the better the outcome's going to be.
And the other thing is that I think I had it confirmed. No, I had it confirmed today that it's the chairman and vice chairman of that group can only be.
That is in the standing orders, it says, unless it is specified other ways in terms of reference, the chairman or deputy chairman have to be a councillor. And yeah, we haven't, again, the terms of reference currently don't have that in there.
No, it's in standing.
Yes, so there's no exception listed.
Excuse me, Matthew, is the chairman, Bill, sorry, get there in the end. Is not the chairman of the youth partnership, Jack, or something like that?
The terms of reference for that subcommittee states that the chairman will be a non-councillor. So that the standing order states. If you wish to add that to the terms of reference.
We change the terms of reference for this subcommittee, for the Walking Cycling Group, can be any member of that committee, because they are going to be proposing and voting who that chairman is. That is my proposal.
Oh, I'd oppose
that.
If we have a seconder for that and you want to vote on them together, that's an option, or we can take them both separately.
I'll second this.
Could I make a comment on that last proposal? I think it's very early stages. Let's start just to, as we are at the moment, with the terms of reference as they are, plus, I think. And then see how we go, because you know, finding chairman, vice chairman, it depends on people's time and willingness to do that. So let's get to know each other first and then go from there.
I know, but I've just opened up your field, because otherwise it's going to be you or Yvonne. Well, it will be you and Yvonne, because you're the only 2 councillors. One of you will be chairman and one of you will be deputy.
We don't tend to vote for deputy chairman on working groups and subcommittees. It's generally just a chairman's nomination.
To be honest, I think we're just getting a bit over the top, really. It's just going to, the whole point about this is it's going to be agile and
Which is why I was trying to make it more members.
Yeah, but I think from my perspective, I think, well, I would expect the chairman to be a councillor, because it's not just what goes on in those meetings. There are all sorts of opportunities in all sorts of different meetings, as we have today talked about things about cycling and what have you, that they would have access to, that you know, a civilian wouldn't.
I suppose the downside is the other three could gang up on you, they could decide to.
Well,
become a
I mean, that
chairman.
wouldn't be.
Chairman, it's been proposed and seconded, we should vote on it.
So can you run it through what we're voting?
I would suggest, based on the conversation, we separate those into two. I think separate proposals.
Let's have the first proposal then.
So the first proposal, just to clarify, is for the terms of reference to be updated to add a Loddon Valley Rambler representative to the group.
Okay, all those in favour?
Voting on.
That's all 10. And the second recommendation is to update the terms of reference to state that the chairman will be any member, not just a councillor.
Go on. I second it.
Those in favour?
We're against now, we're against. This is
Sorry,
against.
this is in favour. This is in favour.
In favour.
Nice and clear, everyone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 7-4.
And those against?
3 against.
Three against.
So that's everyone. So that's carried. I'll make those 2 changes to the terms of reference.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Where are we? Lost myself.
Community Speed Watch.
Oh yes, Community Speed Watch. I don't know, David, have you got any?
Yeah, sorry. June and I got together just after the last meeting. We had a good session. It's a pity we couldn't test the camera. It was out of charge. Matt?
Has that been collected now?
No. It was.
Because I know in the thing it's been,
Yeah.
it was, I've been waiting for someone to come and collect it, so.
Well, to be perfectly honest, if it's not creating problems, it would be easier to leave it in your cabinet for the moment. Reason being, I've got stuff at home all over the place, and I don't really want cameras, tripods, and what have you added to the
Plus,
clutter that
there's an
I've got.
impact on insurance.
Yeah,
That may not be covered on your household insurance.
no, it won't be.
I think the police insure the equipment as long as it's,
Not
I
our equipment, this is our equipment.
think any equipment is part of the scheme, even if it's your own, is
No,
covered by it.
No, not at all. The only equipment the police do are the
You say, just keep it here.
Yeah, no, it can be, yeah.
Yeah, please, it would be grateful, but if we could have the camera charged up, because we will come in and we'll take it over to the gate and actually try it out on traffic. So we spent most of the time actually talking about where to carry it out. And June very kindly agreed to go and have a look at spaces in Collinsmore Road to see where we could possibly have a camera. And I said I would do Church Road, where we know there's a little bit of problem with speeding. I've highlighted 3 spots in Church Road, although I've got to literally sit down and do a little bit of further work before stating categorically that they're right. June's done a lot of work on Coleman's Moor.
I don't know if it's right.
Well, I mean, certainly looking at it, you highlighted about 6 spots, which is using amenity land. And also highlighted that from a visual point of view, you saw speeding going down from the airfield. So what I have suggested to June is that we agree a date in our calendars for the mid-February. And I will put forward an application to the police over the next 2 or 3 days, suggesting a spot between Oak Drive and, is it Kilnsey
All right.
Road?
Kingsford.
Kingsford.
There's a, yeah, piece on the left, which is, by the
yeah.
cottages.
Between those two
Yeah.
areas as an ideal spot to carry out the first episode, which hopefully we will do in middle of February.
On the 14th, maybe.
It's going to be a little bit trial and error, but we've got to get out there sometime, and the sooner the better to get out there and put it in operation. I've got to get permission from the police that they accept that location for insurance purposes. But once we've got that back, Matt, I will give you a call and perhaps we can get it up on Woodley Grapevine and the town councils that we're going to hold our first speed watch on such and such a date, the date I will give you. That may entice more people to come in and say, all right, you're getting it off the ground now. We want to help out.
If you advertise it there, when everyone's right along to spend.
Well, that's the
That's the
intention.
intention. That is the intention. It brings to people's notice that we are out starting to go out and about.
Of course.
And they are now going to have to watch.
Yeah.
But Commonsmore Road is a long road. And the camera could be anywhere down there as far as the general public are concerned.
But interesting
So-
that TRO that they had in Commonsmore that was turned down. Yeah, the one that was turned down. And to be fair, because I mean, 22 people objected to it, and to be fair, they were quite sensible, you know, objections. But of those 22, I think it was 12 or 13 mentioned the issue we've got down this road is speeding, and actually sometimes the parked cars are helping
That's
to.
the best deterrent.
Yeah, to slow things down, which doesn't help the people at the bottom of the road who are struggling to get out of their drive. But of course, the speeding doesn't help either, because you're trying to get out of your drive and you can't actually see very much, and somebody's coming along at 40 when they should be doing 30. You haven't got a chance. So that's why we picked that we've actually got residents that have, you know, mentioned it, and it would just be quite interesting to see objectively whether there is speeding. But I mean, certainly when I walked up and down, to my untrained eye, there's some people are tanking down there.
So it was a fatality where you are proposing many years ago on the odd number side, which is if you're coming from the airfield on the right hand side, there is a tree. I think it might have even been an oak.
That big oak tree.
Yeah, not the one on the corner of Oak Drive, and the other one, you see a lot of the bark is missing on that tree, and that's where the car came round there and hit it. I think it was a fatality.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but just goes to show you it's a nasty piece of road.
But anyway, that's the plan at the moment, and so hopefully before the next meeting, we would have had our first episode.
Hopefully unscathed.
Hopefully unscathed. Correct registration numbers, car make.
I'll watch what I'm doing when I come down.
David, everything you said suggests you're not going to be using the data logger. So what is this? Because the data logger.
So we
just talk about-
want to get it up and running on the speed watch so that people know we're out there. That's the primary aim. The data logger, as June said, could certainly go in Commonsmore Road at the same time, because it could help with regards to the argument over the yellow lights.
And also, like what time of day is the issue? And because obviously we can't be standing there all day,
No,
but the data
no,
logger will be useful for that. And actually, I suppose going forward, it'll be things like trying to identify good times of day to go to places.
Having analysed the equipment from John and Tom, the data that came off, with the data logger up, a lot of the speeding happened in the early hours of the morning or the later hours of the evening, which coincidentally are out of the limit of the speed watch program, because you can only do the speed watch program between the hours of sunrise and sunset.
So just to point out, there are two issues. All right?
Yeah.
There is the issue of trying to get continuous enforcement, which is where the data logger comes in. The data logger gives you full identification of, as you said, of what the peak speeding times are, how many vehicles, whether it's a bus, whether it's a bike, whether it's a van or a car, or even a cyclist, which then the police use to justify any changes or any enforcement. The second issue, well, the second point that you're addressing is just what I call the one-off. That person is speeding, they're going to get a message.
Yeah.
And I think we need to be absolutely crystal clear in any communication, any messaging that we put out to the general public, which of those two.
Yeah.
Because bet your bottom dollar, if you don't make it clear, people will see you doing the job and say, great, that means we're going to get a 20-mile-an-hour zone. And you're not.
Yeah. First of all, the data logger is good for picking up the information. But the situation hasn't changed with the problems that Tom and John had with the downloaded program from the data logger, is that the information it collects is too great for the police to
No, sorry.
actually
But
accept.
No, I'm not suggesting that gets transferred on.
Yep.
Right?
I think, to be honest, to start with, I think to start with, all we need to do is wait for people to tell us they've got an issue, and we'll ask them what's the hotspot day time of the day, and we'll come and have a look. You know, if we do it like that.
If we put the data logger up, it's got to be up for a week, really, to get detailed information. That is then got to be downloaded, it's got to be analysed to see what time it's in. So we would be delaying it probably until the end of March. If we put
let's not do that. I'm not suggesting that.
Yeah.
What I'm suggesting is there's two issues. One is to do with the data logger addresses one issue, the camera addresses the other issue.
Yeah.
And I fully endorse and support your priority on the camera. I just want to make sure that sometime in the future, because we've got a nice piece of equipment here, and it duplicates what the borough does.
Yeah, but my view is that the data logger can be used if someone stops us in the precinct and says, yeah, there's a speeding problem down Vauxhall Drive. We can take the data logger down because we're already out there monitoring with a camera in other areas. We put the data logger up on Vauxhall Drive, come away, collect it in a week's time, and that's in the background where we got the information, and we can go back to it at a later stage.
Okay.
But not as the main provider of.
It's different for the newbies. Basically, what was done originally is somebody would say there is speeding in my road or road X. The data logger would go on, and it clearly proved that there wasn't, and so therefore you didn't take it to the next step. That's what used to happen. You guys are managing it now. You decide what you want to do, and I'm quite comfortable. But I'm just saying, messaging.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
You and David, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Don't stop what you're doing.
Yeah.
Make sure your message is clear.
But at that time, I mean, with greatest respect to both John and Tom, who did a magnificent job on that. If it didn't show up, the speeding problem, nothing was done, and very little information was passed on other than at the meetings that came up. But when people say we've got a speeding problem in Church Road, if we go out there with a camera, even if it's only on the 1 or 10, at least they can see, we've been picked up on it. They're checking. The data logger is background information, which is of major importance to us in deciding where to go. But it's, how can I put it? It's not the be all and end all for us being out there. I think it's more important at the moment for us to be visually seen.
Yeah.
Than just shining a lamp post, putting a dark logo up there and creating the government. Well, that will be done, but that's, I want people to actually see that we are out there with a camera.
That's fine. So that's fine, but what I.
Okay. Any other questions? No.
Sorry.
Okay, highways issues. Anybody any highways issues they want to bring up? Anything that's happening within the town?
Well, yeah, there's an accident waiting to happen around Rangel School and along Walmer Road, towards the post office and that junction with Glendevon Road. Because of when the school kids seem to be coming out now from 2:30 onwards, and there's a continuous stream of them. Some of the traffic tends to go quite fast along Glendevon Road, and the school kids all down Walmer Road and head straight towards the post office and the other license on the other corner, found their sweets and everything. But the kids come walking down the road, down the centre of the road and everything, taking no notice of the traffic. They're just completely oblivious to the car. Plus, you've got a load of parking going on Walmer Road. Parents coming to collect the kids from the junior school that are just parking over everyone's drives and everything.
What would be the solution there? Just
A legal solution.
yeah.
To school,
Sorry?
right to the
Right
school.
to the school. I mean,
That's the first step.
yeah.
You know, notify the school and get them to actually start providing a couple of adults to actually.
Yeah, they stopped doing that. They said at Wayne in particular, they stopped coming out. Teachers used to, back in the day, they used to patrol between Wayne's and Brecon Road shops, and you wouldn't dare do anything wrong. But it is, I live there, it is very fast on that Glendevon Road. And it seems to me to be the parents late drop off or pick up that are the main speeders. I walked along there yesterday morning at 8:20. Tippings Lane from Headley Road East to the school, to the junction with Duffield Road, was solid with traffic. People dropping their children off. The answer is more children should walk or cycle to school, which is back to where we were talking about earlier. And motorists must remember that pedestrians are the #1 priority. So it's not, kids are kids, you're not going to change them. And they are absolutely delightful children. They are children. They're lovely. I wouldn't change them at all. Even the ones that threw eggs at me. But it's the speeding parents, and I think that's where that's where it starts.
Where the problem
That's where it
lies.
starts. And those that I mean, you know where I live, people between me and the school used to drive to the school. It's
No, I
a
don't
9,
know.
you know, I'm just by the shops at Brecon Road. It's a 9-minute walk, you know, get up earlier.
But it is an accident waiting to happen.
I think that if we're going to write to a school, then we need to get some substantive information. Because I mean, what can they do with it if you just say the parents are parking in those places, and then you send a note out to parents and they ignore it, and you're no further forward, are you really? So it'd be interesting to find out where it is.
Do we not still have the name of the police in one?
Sorry.
Yes, we do, but they're now all out of a London place, whatever it's called.
Long Valley.
Which Sally police station, you're all out from there.
We're not from here.
No, although I think they still rent the place and it's.
I think they went back North Wokingham, we come under that.
I think
But
with North Wokingham now, I think North Wokingham Policing Team covers this area, I think.
what I was gonna say is that at the last town centre management meeting, there were police there, thank God, first time for a very, very long time. And someone suggested, are the police going into school like they used to do? And that stopped some time ago, but it looks as though that's starting up again. Don't quote me, but there could well be someone or police going into schools, and this would be an ideal opportunity to just reinforce the safety angle of roads and traffic and stuff like that. Just a thought.
I just think it'd be interesting to have some sort of data. And almost like have conversations with parents. Where have you come from today? Why have you parked across the drive?
You'll get an absolute mouthful back.
Not necessarily. It depends how you approach this. But I think bringing kids up these days is a logistic nightmare for parents. What parents? No, but it is. It's. And again, I mean, I used to walk my kids to school, but then I used to go home, and now girls are getting in their car and off to work, and it is very sort of stressful, really. But obviously there'll be a bunch of people who just don't give tons about anybody else. But I mean, there are kind of issues there, so it'd be interesting to find out. And then once we know if we've got more information about what the problem is, then you can look towards a solution. But I think just saying to people, don't park in front of people's drives, and they go, no, we won't do that. And then the next time you come down, there's nowhere to park. And it's not peculiar to Woodley, it's all over. There's nowhere to park. You just pull in, and you pull in now. Oh, here only 2 minutes. Run their kids around, throw them in, and come back, and that's what it is. People are sort of it's quite stressful. But again, have people considered the walking option, or taking turns with friends to walk kids and things like that. Until you know what the problem is and why the people are doing it.
Maybe a solution. I walked to the hospital the other week, and I went down past what used to be Alfred Sutton School. What's it called now? It's Main Early, down that road there by the College Arms. I walked down there, and you can't go down there between 8:45 and 9:15. And in the afternoon, both ends, it's got these signs.
They've got a few of those in Reading.
And you think, well, if you do that and then you can instantly ticket someone, because you can't give someone a ticket for parking on double yellow line for 6 minutes. People know that. They stop, go get the paper, or. So if you had something like that, you could do that on the junction of Walmer Road, you could do that on the junction of Denmark Avenue as well. It said no entry for half an hour, twice a day. That would stop it.
But they are manned by volunteers as well.
But
So
it
it's
moved
not.
somewhere else though, wouldn't it?
So it's but it's there until you know what the problem is. You can't craft a solution to it. So is it just thoughtlessness, or have people got?
Society.
It's
Well, that's all about it, isn't it? But as I said, it's whether you want to do something effective or just.
My next door's neighbour who asked to park over the end of my drive. Okay, and when I'm approached him about it, his solution is that I've got sufficient room to be able to drive my car over the lawn to get it off.
I think I might have driven into it by now.
That's why I've got a Tesla.
Oh, so where are we? What do we propose to do about this? Are we going to write to the schools? Are we going to encourage the police to go back into the schools and talk about this? Or just engage your parents? Or all three?
I think we do it from all angles. Get a letter up to the schools first of all, and then mention it to the police so that they can bring it.
In relation to schools, we need to have some substantive information.
Better to write to the schools, it's better so they can focus on that one, so at least they can pass information. The request to parents or whatever was going the situation.
Yes. So we need to put a letter together to the schools and quite happy to.
Yep,
draft
do
something
that.
and we can have a look at it, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Right,
So up to which schools? Are we just going to do those two?
Wangels is the one that's
Wangels and
been
Willowbank?
highlighted.
You've got
tonight.
Wales and you've got.
We've got Willowbank and we've also, obviously, we've got Rivermead, which is an ongoing.
I just think you could also apply the rationale to every school, couldn't you, in Woodley? So perhaps if we were to write to every school in Woodley and just suggest, say, wording would be, members of the Planning Community Committee would like to ask if you, when you're next communicating with parents, if you could remind them consideration to the neighbours, parking, speeding, I don't know. Your bread and butter, you know what to do, but.
And safety of the children.
Yeah, of your children, yeah.
Your children, yeah.
But I think maybe we should do, for the price of a few bits of paper and a few stamps, do it to all the schools in Woodley.
And how will we measure if that's effective?
So especially if they can keep it a restriction between that time, how you say the, within half an hour on the area, so no one can drop off on that one. I mean, if there is a yellow line or whatever that in front of the dropping off area.
They certainly have these schemes operating in Reading, but I mean, it's not something you can just do.
No.
And you'd have to go and have a look at it. So it's sort of whether we just go through the motions and send a letter, because I'm sure the headmistresses and masters are open and will go, oh, blimey, you know, what am I supposed to do about this? Because we're not actually offering.
Well,
Yeah, but
a long time.
But, yeah, I mean, well, you know, fine, I mean, I wouldn't bother, I don't think that's effective, I don't think we know exactly what it is we're trying to fix. I mean, if I got a letter to say, your parents are parking over, you know, certain areas, and I don't know, well, really, how many, what, you know, when, are you sure? I mean, it's just sort of an easy thing for us to do, to send a letter.
We don't do it then.
Well, I don't think, I personally wouldn't bother, I think it's just
Do
us.
you think we should engage the police and ask the police? to
Well, I
go
think
into
that's
the
a little
school?
bit over the top, I think really what we're talking
No,
about.
we're only
is we
asking them
would-
to do what they did years ago.
Yes, but that was before, you cut the number of policemen we've got, so don't go there.
So do we do nothing or do we do?
No, I think when we say we're not proposing to do anything, are we? We're proposing to bung a letter out,
Yeah.
lob it in the post and send it to, I mean, that's not doing anything. If we want to do something, Rob, we could actually get a gang of us together, go down to a particular school one afternoon in the morning and just actually observe what's going on and perhaps have a word with some of the you know, parents there. I mean, I'd be interested to know, you know, where people are coming from, why is it you're not walking and what have you, and just find out about it. I mean, I know in some areas they've introduced, oh, I can't remember what they call them, but it's like walking trains or walking buses, and you get a rota together and you put all the kids together, and there are 2 or 3 parents. Every day you're on a rota and you walk the kids to school.
That used to happen all the time, but guess what? They ran out of people willing to do it,
Well,
ran out of parents, and it's the same volunteers, a pool of volunteers for everything.
Diminished.
Is diminishing, and it's not there.
yeah, in this case, you'd be talking about people about their own children, wouldn't you? So, but
that-
again,
Their response will be, I'm all right, I've driven up, I've got rid of them,
Well-
I'll pick them up.
And I can just imagine, why are you asking about my children? Who are you? Where have you come from? Where's your, have you been checks and?
I just think engaging with people and actually understanding the issue, you have a better chance of getting a solution than just sending a letter, which is what they'll do is they'll copy it and send it out on the school WhatsApp, and everybody will go, yeah, that's not me, even though it is, and nothing will happen. But give it a go if you're confident there's some value to it. To me, if there isn't any value, that's just us being sort of unhelpful.
Let's just ask, I mean, where are we? We're talking about parking across somebody's drive. But is that the issue? Isn't it more about the safety of the children?
It's more about safety
Yeah.
and children.
And,
This is
and
where,
also the fact, you know.
where Linda was coming from,
And also that, you know, the fact that, I mean, there's another thing in that report we saw earlier on, our kids are, more obese
Yeah.
than,
Yeah.
you know, 5 and 6 year olds. There's a higher level of obesity than the toddlers and all this sort of stuff. So there's loads of issues around it. And yes, it would be a good thing. But all I'm saying is, I don't think sending a letter to the headmasters and asking them to then tell their, you know, the parents to not park where they're not supposed to
We'll
park.
vote whether to send a letter or not.
Well, I think, yeah, I'm happy to do that, but the letter is about what? The safety of the children? Yeah, right, and I think sending a letter about the safety of the children to a school is going to have more effect than sending a letter telling them not to park across somebody's drive, so we need to make that. So who's happy that we send a letter to the schools highlighting the dangers that children are facing on this issue?
Yes.
Shows them being okay.
Could I make a proposal, please?
Yeah.
Okay, could we now approach Wokingham, highways and ask them to consider putting some slow children signs just on those, the busier sections?
I think they're already there, aren't they, in many cases?
They're not there.
I think, well, first of all, can we decide that we send a letter? Who's in favour of the letter going to the schools?
Yeah.
That's the first step.
It matters.
Having done that, then we can decide perhaps at a later stage whether we want to engage the police, and I'll say that they've got the community police officers to be able to go into the schools and just. I think that's where we should go in.
And maybe put it as an agenda item.
Yes.
Because it's really, for me,
It's been a-
it's too late. It's a great issue.
Hmm.
But it's too, for me, being old, too late in the day to
Yeah.
sort of keep me out of brain. I'd rather have it as an agenda, because we meet every month anyway.
Yeah,
As
absolutely.
an agenda item, so we can budget some time to thrash out all the points, which Hugh's making some really good points.
Okay.
Everybody else is.
Right, any community issues?
I've just got a quick question. Keith, when we were at the, yeah, you mentioned that we're going to get some new notice boards.
Yeah.
And we've got the cash for that. Have we decided, I mean, like, we're just replacing the ones we've got? I mean, is there any scope?
And no need to review where they go.
Cool, because there's a couple of places, I think we've got, notice board black, you know, sort of bare paper places, and the one down at Just Tiles roundabout, you have to kind of hurl yourself into the hedge to see it. I don't think it's up football around there anymore.
And what this committee debates, the proposal.
I can bring that back. Yeah,
And also what sort of style they are as well. You know,
yeah, we're looking at it.
So
It's about-
digital and
Yeah, anything.
that's a bit pricey.
With the USB port, so you
Yeah.
can charge
I
it.
was thinking more about when you can shut the shutter, you know, put a glass shutter thing over it, because they've got them like that in Charvel, I think.
Yeah, we're looking at a combination of where
Yeah.
we have an open access section.
Yeah.
Belinda?
Yeah.
Well, this is a community issue. It's regarding, I believe everyone knows the incident happened in Woodford Park yesterday, or I believe.
This is the couple of kids had some
Yeah.
stuff taken off them by 2 boys at
Oh.
knife point.
Yeah.
In
Coats or something?
in Ashenbury, that
Yeah,
was, wasn't
because
it?
yeah, that happened, according to the news, it's on 10 o'clock in the late evening. It was at night, 10 o'clock. So I'm not sure if there is any time restrictions on the Woodford Park that no one can interrupt this time or whatever.
That incident was at
Yeah,
Ashenbury there, wasn't it?
yeah, because Mr. Majid, he sent me the news and then I checked the news and I know the police is handling that one, but if we can, I mean, if it's a borough can keep eye on, I mean, if there is a timing, especially I don't know what's the policy about the opening or closing times or whatever, anything is.
The issue,
Yeah,
and early town councils found this, the issue is, if you want to do that, you've got to physically stop people from actually going in after, if you make it 10 o'clock, you've got to have something that physically stops it. If you have something that physically stops it, it's got to be open from say 8 o'clock in the morning to 10, and then someone has to go and close it. And they had it for Soldier Old Park, I think it was, for a long, long time, and it was a resident just who lived down the road. And then they retired from it, and moved, etc. They couldn't get anybody else to do it. So that is the issue. Plus, there are a lot of people who use that as like a overflow car park. So Denmark Avenue, people can park in there, in the evening and walk home if they haven't got enough space. Or same with Lunsholm Park, Lunsholm Road. So it's an interesting idea, but it's not without its difficulties. Let's put it that way.
Because this is I believe it's after a long time I heard this incident that happened in local, so it is affecting, especially because I know sometimes might be the teenagers walking around or near the town centre, and that's.
If it's an ongoing issue and there are accumulation of youngsters going in or anybody going in after those hours, it is causing a problem, then we could notify Working Borough Council and ask that the ASB team pop in there from time to time, just to act as a deterrent. They are around and they are mobile. So we could actually, if it was going to be an issue.
Yeah,
It's on the police radar anyway.
That
police officer was buffed up over there.
I mean, just we would highlight and the request to the councils that at least they can.
I think the issue is there's too many pedestrian access points. So Woodford Park to Memorial Ground, Ashbury. So you could stop cars with closing up if you could do it. But there's too many ways in.
My style, for instance.
Your style. You've just highlighted that. See?
We know you wouldn't be going in there.
Or open fence, something like that.
Okay, right. Publications, to note the following, the CCBE bulletin, January 24, and Working Volunteer Centre newsletter, January 24. Future agenda items, we've got one already, which is the school safety or pedestrian safety issues regarding schools. That's one. Anything else that we need to? Are we going to bring up the? Were we going to look at speed watch again, or is it always in the
It's a regular item? It's a regular item.
Yep. The other thing, but there was something else. No, okay. Any others? Yes, Ben.
I have a question more of a future agenda item. So we sit here every month, every 3 weeks, whatever it might be, and we pass a lot of approvals for new homes as such. So this is probably more for borough councils, it's just a question. Do the borough ever look at the houses that we've passed approvals on and say, that's gone from a 2-bedroom house to a 5-bedroom house? What's the council tax ban there? Does anybody ever ask that?
Yeah,
So the way it works, okay, is generally you don't get a rebanding until the property is sold. So the person who buys it will have to suffer a rebanding. So if it's gone 2 to 5, it's gone up to 2 bands potentially, right? But that's then factored into all the selling stuff, the estate agents and all that. And there's a very simple political reason why it's never happened. Common sense says it should happen all the time. It would be political suicide from any political party, no matter who you are, to do that. Because everybody, most people see a way of getting more asset value by extension rather than selling and buying. I think that's the.
Because we keep checking our parking charges up. We ended up doing that.
Well, no, it's independent. There's a district valuation officer, I think it is, DVA, who does it independently, and it's triggered from. Because I've had many residents saying, well, hang on, I bought this, and I'm in bad D say, my neighbour has gone, it was a bungalow and it's now a four-storey apartment block. And they're still down, E. And it's quite rightly said, this isn't fair. But that's.
Anything else? Right. Publicity website, anything that we need to highlight?
I just say thank you to Matthew again. It's really nice.
There you go. We need to,
Every so often I do say this. You know what, there's a lot of good work that's done here, particularly reviewing the planning application. We ought to maybe once every 6 months put out a press release that just summarises the work that we do, particularly around the the chart that says where the borough is consistent with us
Yes.
and all that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
Just that, you know, we ought to be banging it on to say
Yes.
we're all doing a pretty good job here.
Just to give you a slight update on that, now that the Herald is gone to a 6-monthly, twice yearly, and it's increased to 8 pages, we are going to have pages that summarise the activities of the committees and the subcommittees and working groups, just to give residents a feel of the sort of items that councils do. So I can definitely try and put those sorts of figures in that summary.
I was thinking of a press release.
Well, I think, yeah, a lot of that can kind of will feed into press releases as well. So.
do we need to add anything about the activity or the future activity of the speed watch?
Well, when I get
When's
the
ready?
information from back from police, then I will contact Matt. And that's time to do that.
Can I suggest we don't use the word first?
Oh, yes.
Just saying we are doing a speed
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing else? Close the meeting. Thanks very much for attending.
Thank you.